Okay. Um, right. Well, mine this time was about plan setups, plan page layouts. So, as I say, I think we did this a little bit last time as well. But as I say, repetition reinforces the message. So, what I've got here is a little design I did with a terrain model and some geometry and a corridor along it. And what I've done to create, as in the prescribed manner, what I've done is I've created a base DGN here called A45 Whedon base. And what I've done is I've referenced in the terrain and the geometry. I know we're saying put corridors and geometry in different files as well, but I forgot to in this instance. So we've got a terrain and geometry DGN referenced in and nested, so we get to see everything in there as well. So what are we going to do? Okay, we're going to look at drawing production, and we're going to look at placing some named boundaries. I'm using, I think, the training workspace here, so it should have some seed files in for plan drawings. So if I go to named boundary, place named boundary, and as we can see here, there are several options along the top. I'm sticking with the plan, and in our workspace we have several plan seed files. In the first instance, I'm going to choose the A1 underscore plan for just an A1 sheet with plan only on it. We can change the scale if we want, but I'm going to leave it at 1 to 500. I'm going to give it a name, plan 1, and what it will then do, it will automatically increment the pages as we go through. Now it's asking for me to select some geometry, so if I zoom in and pick my geometry here, and it tells us what the name is by picking the piece of geometry, and I'm going to call it plan as well, so I know it's the plan for the named boundary group. What it's asking for now is start and end locations. I'm just going to hit the two buttons for start and end. We can change the length of each sheet if we want, and we can change the left and right offset. I'm going to leave those as default. Type in plan there, and the offset comes in as a default of 0, but I always like to put a bit of an offset overlap in, so I'm going to overlap by 10 meters. And I'm also going to leave the create drawing and the show dialog box ticked, so that it will automatically bring up the dialog and create the drawing. And if I click on the display now, you'll see that it shows where our plan pages are going to be, and also you can see here there's a bit of an overlap as well. And if I click on enter, data point, it then brings us up the plan create drawing dialog. There are several things we can change in here, but I'm going to leave these as default. We can also, if we want to do some annotation as well, we can add an annotation group in there. I haven't done one in this case, but we can put extra annotation on if we wish. And I've ticked the add to sheet index checkbox in here, which then adds this particular piece of information, these pages, to the sheet index as well. And if I simply hit OK on there, progress bar goes through here and it's creating our plan drawings. And when it gets to the end, it will bring us up the last page. It always brings up the last page, and there we go. We can see we've got our plan drawings here. These are created as unique, each page is created as a unique model, and if we go to the model dialog here, you can see we've got a sheet model for each page, and we've also got a drawing model for each page as well. And all it's doing here is referencing the drawing model into the sheet. And if we go to home models, references, you can see that this particular page has a drawing referenced into it. And also, if we look out at our sheet index, each one of these are now listed in our sheet index. What we've done here is to create this named boundary, and if we go to named boundaries, then you'll see that this named boundary has been saved away, and we can keep recreating the drawings as often as we like. So if we change any geometry, or if we change our design at all, we can this named boundary set is saved away, and we can just run it again and it will recreate our drawings for us. So that's plan drawings. I'm just going to show something else as well. So if we go back to our default drawing, I'm going to place some double plan drawings. So this puts two pages, two plan drawings on each sheet. I'm going to leave the default name as the same. I'm going to call this double plan 1 and pick our piece of geometry again. And call it double, oh, can't spell, double plan. I'm going to snap to the start and end chain edges again. Again, I'm going to put an overlap in, 10. And if we now click on our box, you can see that the page is actually set up a bit narrower. That's because it's trying to fit two on one page, on one sheet, two sections on one sheet. Oh, it keeps losing this description. Double plan. Okay, and again, I've left the create drawing and the show dialog highlighted, checked. And again, it brings up the dialog, which we can add to change if we wish. And OK on that, and it goes through and creates our drawing for us again. And it's creating more sheets this time because it's creating the same number of sheets, but if you'll see in our model dialog, I think it's going to crash. Unbelievable. Let's see if we can ignore it. So if we see in our double, we now have, let's go back to one that's got double sheets on it. Now it seems to have recovered. You can see here, it's created the same number of drawing views, but we have half the number of sheet views because it's fitted two sections on here. One thing to note here is that, again, if we look in our attached tools, for our sheet view, there are two drawings referenced in. So these are two separate drawings, and in this case I haven't got any overlap, but if you did get a bit of overlap here, you can actually move the reference around a little bit. So if it had come in on the curve where there might be a bit of an overlap, you can manually adjust these reference files a little bit. And again, if we go back to drawing production, to our named boundaries, you'll see we now have M1 plan and M1 double plan, and these are saved away, and we can use these again and again if we wish. Okay, that's all I've got to show. I'm going to pause the recording now, or stop the recording.